Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of the Talking Football podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to say we're joined on the line this week by Kilmarnock legend, the one and only Mark Reilly. Mark, thank you very much for coming on.
No problem, Derek. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's great to have you on there, Mark. Looking back at the career, a tremendous career you had in the game, long and distinguished. Looking back all the way, you were born back in Bells Hill, 1969, always kicking a ball around.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Derek, there was no technology back then, so from as young as I can remember, all I can remember doing is going out with a ball, playing football. Back then, out in the streets, you don't see kids playing in the streets now for various reasons. Obviously, there are too many cars now as well. But yeah, as young as I can remember, Derek, I had a ball and out playing with my pals. And if I had nobody to play with, I'd just play myself, just play keepy up here, heading off the garage.
Yeah, no, those are the days. You're right, you don't really see that anymore. It's sad to see, isn't it?
No, definitely. And it was a case of just in from school, out playing football. Mum would shout you in for dinner. You'd eat dinner as quick as you could, back out again till it was dark, and then back in again. That was the day. It was great.
Those are the days. Did you follow anybody? Did you have a team back then?
Yeah, I used to go, and my dad was a Celtic fan, Derek. So before I kind of played boys' club when I was young, my dad used to take me to the Celtic games. So we go to all the kind of home games at Parkhead. Never really went to many away games, but we certainly went to all the home games.
Yeah, and was there any players that you admired, you looked up to, you tried to be like?
Not so much tried to be like, but certainly there were so many great players in that era back then. Probably my favourite player was, I'd say, Danny McLean, possibly. I love Danny. Danny was a great player, great defender, great going forward. But there were so many. I loved Davy Provan because he used to wear his socks at his ankles, and that was unusual. And then Charlie Nicholas come on the scene. There was so many talented players back then.
Yeah, there certainly was. And I guess before Motherwell sort of picked you up, Mark, were you playing for boys' clubs in the school and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I went to St Gerard's primary school. We had a good football team. We did well, won most of the cups, and then I went on to Cardinal Newman Secondary, played in the football team there. Boys' club-wise, played with St Columbus Boys Club, which was quite a famous boys' club in View Park, and then Thornywood Boys Club later on. So yeah, it was always like playing with the school in the morning, boys' club in the afternoon. So no, it was great times.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Motherwell then, what did they just send a scout to have a wee look at you then and ask you over to trials or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was, Derek. If my memory goes back as far as that, I must have probably been about 11, 12 at the time. I can't remember actually if it was the school or the boys' club, but I can remember it was a scout by the name of Alistair Stevenson, who worked at Motherwell. He worked at Rangers. I believe he's still at St Johnstone now, possibly head of the academy there. So it was Alistair took me in and training with Motherwell. I had the opportunity to train at Celtic as well. I ended up signing back then schoolboy forums with Motherwell. And was just training a few times a week with Motherwell, and it went from there. So no, it was good. He was great, and as I say, he's still involved in the game, which is great to see all those many years later. Yeah,
absolutely. Coming through the ranks in at Motherwell, will you do all this sort of apprentice stuff, cleaning boots and all that sort of stuff?
Oh, we did. It was back then. It was the old terracings with the old barriers. I remember even in the summer, come in, I left school. I think it was 1985. I left school and joined Motherwell, joined the ground staff, and we were in and it was sweeping all the steps. We were actually painting all the barriers and the old terracings as well, and cleaning. I remember every Friday was cleaning the seats in the stand as well before the game, and then obviously cleaning boots and cleaning dressing rooms, and it was all part of it back then. I don't think the kids now have to do that, but I thought it was a great thing. It certainly helped and made you appreciate things.
Yeah, the manager would have been Tommy McLean, wouldn't it? Back is that right? Back then when you were there,
it was. Tommy was a manager back then. And Big Tam Forsyth, who's sadly no longer with us. He's number 2. Yeah.
What was he like? We had John Phillips on recently and asked him about him, and he said he had a love to hate relationship. They love to hate each other.
I listened to Softies. It was really good. I kind of digressing slightly, but I remember Billy Stark telling me stories about Alex Ferguson when he was at St Mirren and Aberdeen under him, and he would go off the park at half time, maybe 3-0 up, maybe even scored a few goals, and he would be thinking, what did I do wrong here? I hope I don't get pelters, hope the manager, I wonder if he's going to give me it tight. Yeah. And I kind of related to that because that was the way I felt with wee Tommy. He was a very, very good coach, very knowledgeable. But back then, old school management, very hard on everybody or most people. And I think that's just the way it was back then. I don't think that was unique or unusual. I think there was probably quite a lot of managers like that type of management. You can think of your Alex Ferguson's, your Jim McLean's. And I think wee Tommy was certainly from that ilk. He wasn't a big man in terms of physically, but he had a presence about him. And I can remember there was a guy, Cammy Murray, used to take the reserves. And Cammy was the opposite. Cammy was really kind of gentle and laid back. And back then, the reserve games, when the first team were playing on the Saturday, so for example, if Motherwell played Celtic at Parkhead, the reserve team would play at Firth Park. That was the way it worked. And you were certainly more relaxed. If it was a midweek reserve game and Tommy was there, the manager was there, you felt that tension, and coming off the pitch at half time and full time and just praying that, you're not going to get pelters for your performance. But again, looking back, it was certainly a great education because he was very knowledgeable in the game and very good coach.
Yeah. Can you remember making your debut there, Mark?
For a while, I've not got the best memory, Derek. I actually thought I'd made my debut against Dundee United at Firth Park, but I actually think it was a week before at Easter Road. I can remember I played against Hibs and I played against Dundee United, but I believe my debut was at Easter Road the week before. I think we lost 3-2. Can't remember much about the game other than I remember I got a phone call on the Friday evening from wee Tommy basically saying to get ready. I was playing tomorrow. I can't remember if somebody had been injured and he spoke to Cam and I'd been doing well in the reserves and they thought, either give you an opportunity now or I don't. So you're going to get your opportunity. So make sure you're ready to go tomorrow. So it was totally unexpected out of the blue. Can't remember much about the game. I can remember I was playing against Mickey Weir, who was a right winger at Hibs. And I did okay. I think we get beat 3-2. I think Nick Cusack scored. But the great thing for me was I had David Cooper playing in front of me, so I think the opposition were more concerned about him than trying to exploit me at fullback. So that certainly helped because all I had to do was when I get the ball was roll it to him and he kept it for about 10-15 minutes and did his magic. So that certainly helped me a lot. And I think inside me I had Big Tam McAdam, who was centre back. Yeah. And he was an experienced player, so he was a good help to me as well.
Yeah, what was David Cooper like just to sort of learn from, Mark, and all that, like going into training and seeing him? Because I mean, the folk that we speak to that played with him, just they say he was just an absolute god with the ball. He's just unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it was. It was incredible. Never got to mingle as much with him because we obviously 2 dressing rooms at Firth Park, and the first team get kind of dressed in the home dressing room, and the reserve players and the younger boys like myself in the away dressing room. Obviously train now and again. Looking back, he was a fairly quiet guy, but he was a nice guy. But in terms of a footballer, I mean, obviously his best days were at Rangers, and he must have been incredible at Rangers, because certainly at Motherwell. And I think sometimes in your career you don't appreciate how good players are until you train with them on a daily basis. And I think people like maybe Ian Durrant was the same canal, Tommy Burns. Certainly David Cooper was incredible. He had a wand of a left foot. He was really strong as well. Interestingly, wasn't the quickest, wasn't lightning quick, but he was strong and just a great football intelligence and an incredible left peg. And he had an aura about him in the pitch as well. I think came with that ability.
Yeah, Phil O'Donnell would have been coming through at that point as well, wouldn't he, Mark? Would he be a young boy then?
How good was he? Yeah, Phil really kind of burst on the scene. Again, really, really nice lad, quiet lad. Yeah. Really good footballer. Thing I can remember about Phil physically, for his age, he was a powerful runner. He was really dynamic. So beyond his years physically, I think at that point as well, which certainly helped him as a young boy coming in and playing first team football. But no, he was a great talent.
Yeah. The nickname Mavis, where does that come from?
Oh, Mavis, I'd signed with Kilmarnock and I wasn't there that long. I think we were in the dressing room one day and I think a few of them, Jim Fleeton was the manager.
Yeah.
I think he said, we need to get a nickname for Mark Reilly. He's not got a nickname. I'm not calling him Mark. I think it was a big centre back, Paul Flexney. Said, why don't we call him Mavis? So, why Mavis? They couldn't think of anything. It was ridiculous. It was, well, at the time, Coronation Street, there was only a few channels on the TV. So he says, well, the character Mavis Reilly from Coronation Street. And it was as bad as that, but for some reason, it was just one of those nicknames that since that day, it just stuck.
Yeah.
And everybody calls me Mavis. I'm known as Mavis. I mean, even my wife has got my name on her phone as Mavis. So probably now when I'm working now and I'm away for the football and people don't know me, they call me Mark. But anybody related to football or MD for years ago refers to me as Mavis. And it's just a name that's stuck.
That's brilliant. So you joined Kilmarnock then. What was it, the reason behind that move then, Mark? Was it just to, and they were in the old First Division at that point, was to get game time?
Yeah, I was getting really frustrated, Derek. Going way back, even as a kid, talking about growing up, I was always a midfield player.
Yeah.
But I think what happened, it came with the trials for the Scotland schoolboys, under 15s. And I think it was maybe Alistair, the Motherwell scout that we spoke about, had said to me, listen, there's going to be a lot of competition. When you go for the trials, why don't you play left back instead of midfield? So that's what happened. And I got in the schoolboy team as a left back. And I was sort of kind of pigeonholed then as a left back. So when I left school, I went to Motherwell and I played in the reserves and Tommy McLean played me as a left back. But to be honest, I didn't have the attributes to play left back at that level. I wasn't good enough to play left back, to be honest. And there was far better players in front of me, like, with full backs at the time, like Tom Boyd, Fraser Wishart.
Yeah.
But, I lacked certain attributes to play at that level, I think, at full back. And I kind of knew that myself and I was getting frustrated. So I just wanted to go and play first team football because I had been at Motherwell since 85 and I think that was 91 when they won the cup and I'd only played a handful of games. And I really wanted to try and play first team football. And it was just really a frustration. So I spoke to Tommy McLean. He was great with me. He understood. Back then there was no agents and he was really good with me. He said, listen, he says, I'll let you go. He said, see if you don't get a club that suits you. He says, there's another year's contract here for you so you can come back. So he was more than fair. And I think he actually spoke to Jim Fleeton on my behalf. And I just got a phone call from Jim Fleeton, went and spoke to him and signed with Kilmarnock. The frustrating thing was I went to Kilmarnock and then got played at left back again. So initially, the frustrations were still there, and it probably wasn't to Tommy Burns became the manager. I got the opportunity to play midfield, so that was the reason I ended up leaving Motherwell. It was just really frustration and trying to play first team football.
Yeah, and you mentioned there Tommy Burns. I mean, he was still player manager there at the time. Did you learn a lot for him, Mark?
I'm laughing. I've got so many memories of Tommy Burns. We could speak all night about him. I think MD you speak to, he touches our life in a positive and unique way. He was without doubt the biggest influence in my career. Incredible, funny guy, passionate guy, winner, humble, really nice person, but he had that fiery side to him as well. As a player, I can remember playing with him and I think I was actually playing left back, and he'd be playing in front of you. I can remember one day, I think we played Morton, and I think I broke up the park, and he was shouting for the ball inside. He used to always call you boy. Hey, boy, give me the ball. And I think I played it into the striker, and it broke down, and they attacked down the opposite side of the park. And I can remember just my head thinking, right, I need to get back into position. So I'm running from one end of the pitch to the other to get back into the left back position. And he's not watching the game. He's actually chasing me all the way back, shouting at me and clipping me over the head. See, when I shout for the ball, boy, you just give me it. Do you hear me? And that was just Tom. He was like that. But incredible footballer.
Yeah.
Really, really talented footballer. Learned so much from him in terms of how to look after yourself and prepare. There was no sports science then. And,
yeah.
you know, I used to watch him and he used to do a real running warm-up. So it was no easy build-up into a warm-up. It was a real hard warm-up. Your training session started for your warm-up. And I actually used to run harder in the warm-up than he did in the game because he gave it full pelt. And I kind of took that kind of mindset later into my career when I would take the warm-ups at St Mirren, etc. And I knew the boys hated it, but I knew the importance of a good warm-up back then. So wee things like that, but there's so many stories I could tell about Tom. He was a real character. He really was. And as I say, without doubt, the biggest influence in my career. Because again, I was going through the motions, Derek, at Kilmarnock, playing left back, in and out. And again, there was a frustration. I think there was a frustration with me because I knew I wasn't good enough as a fullback, and I had always been a midfield player. And he pulled me one day and he said, listen, by this time he was a manager, he says, you're not a fullback. I'm going to give you the opportunity to play in the middle of the park. He says, I think you've got attributes to play in there. He said, but I want you to be honest with me. He says, I want you to go home, look yourself in the mirror tonight and come back in and tell me in the morning if you want to be a footballer. He could say, don't waste your time and don't waste my time. And that was a kind of light bulb moment for me. I actually did go home and had a think that night. I thought, he's right, I'm actually going through the motions here. Yeah. And I think part of that was the frustration we'd spoke about. And I went in the next day and I said, Gaffer, I want to be a footballer. I want to be a footballer, Tom, definitely. Yeah. He said, right. He said, well, these are the attributes you've got. You need to get yourself really fit. You're aggressive, getting about people, keep it simple, and we'll go for there. He says, you need to do that day in, day out. He says, see, once you're doing that, he says, you need to do it week in, week out, and month in, month out, and then year in, year out. He says, see, when you're doing that, he says, you're doing okay then. So wee things like that, it was great. And he used to always say, see when you go up in the morning, look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to do my best today. And then before you go to bed at night, look yourself in that mirror again and be honest with yourself. Did you do your best? You'll have good days, you'll have bad days. He said, but that's the way to approach it. And I actually physically did that for a few months. I used to go up in the morning and look in the mirror. But those good habits through my career, for that was a light bulb moment for me then. And from then going forward, I really kind of changed my mental outlook towards the game, and I treated every day like a World Cup final to the day I retired. And for that moment onwards, you'd like to do better at times, but I had no regrets. Yeah. And I certainly owe all that to Tam. He was without doubt a huge influence.
Yeah, he was an absolute legend. Sadly missed it. Billy Stark was there as well, wasn't he? What a player he is to learn from.
Billy Stark was absolutely brilliant, and he was a great foil for Tam. Yeah. Because Tam was so passionate, fiery, very impulsive, whereas Billy was the opposite. Billy was very calm, measured, very intelligent. I'm not saying Tam wasn't. Tam had a very good knowledge of the game. But when Billy spoke to you, it really kind of made sense. And it was, that's spot on. He's so right with that. Yeah. So he was, again, great guy, brilliant coach. As a player, he was a fantastic player, even at times in, I think, the 94 season. I mean, obviously, he's known as a kind of right midfield player, posting in and getting goals, but he played centre-back for us at times as well. So, real intelligent footballer, and obviously he was well at the end of his career at that point. But yeah, he was different class. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to play under him at St Johnstone as well. Yeah. No, he was brilliant, and I say a great foil for Tam.
Yeah, he was some player. You'd have played at the old style Rugby Park and the new one. But did you prefer one to the other, Mark, or how did you find them both? Because they're both sort of, it's the same place, obviously, but it's different sort of landscape and looks and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think the old Rugby Park had it was always well known back then for the surface. It was one of the better surfaces in the country, and the surface was great. The old terracing was great. It was great for atmosphere when there was a good crowd there. It was full. Yeah. It was absolutely brilliant. But I suppose the clubs have got to move on at some point. They've got to, kind of go with the times and improve the stadiums. And I think the new Rugby Park's fantastic. It's a great stadium. Mm-hmm. The only thing I'm glad that I'm not playing nowadays is the AstroTurf pitch. I certainly I couldn't play in that. I must admit I'm not a fan of AstroTurf. I believe it's got its purpose. I understand why clubs do it now for financial reasons, etc.
Yeah.
But for me, it's only my opinion. I think top flight football shouldn't be played in AstroTurf. I think it's fine for training, it's fine for kids, but I think it's a different game in the AstroTurf, and I'm not a fan of it. So I'm glad it wasn't AstroTurf when I was playing.
Yeah, I'm the same. There shouldn't be anywhere near the top flight, I don't think. You would have came up against Ayr United. What was it? Can you remember much about the derbies? Quite feisty.
Yeah, no, they were. There's a big, obviously a big rivalry in Ayrshire. The Ayrshire people being the way they are, a dislike for each other. Be a bit mixed. I can remember beating them in the Scottish Cup at Rugby Park, but we also struggled against them latterly in some of the cup competitions after that. The Scottish Cup, they beat us at Somerset. So, kind of mixed, but no, they were great atmospheres, and they're the best games to play in when there's a good atmosphere. So, no, they were certainly feisty.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you get promotion in 92-93, and then the following season, you stay up. Was it quite nerve-wracking? I know you beat Rangers. Was it the last game at the old ground before it sort of get demolished? You beat them 1-0. Can you remember much about that game and that season, about staying up at the end? Yeah,
that was I still believe that was a monumental season in terms of Kilmarnock where they are today. In terms of, people always ask me about the cup final. Was that the most important game? It's probably the best memory in terms of winning the cup. I still think the most important game was that last day at Easter Road to stay in the league, because I think if Kilmarnock could have got relegated that season when it was our first season in the league, it would have been difficult to build and get back up again, and who knows where the club would have been. So that was really important. It was an incredible season because we knew there was league reconstruction that year, so we knew that 3 clubs were getting relegated out of 12. So, we were obviously a new club in the top division at that time, and we had an eventful season. We had a good season. We played some good stuff at times. Tam had us well drilled in terms of we all knew what we were doing. There was a reputation for the Dad's Army. We obviously had players like George McCluskey who were coming to the end and great experience. But we also had some really fit boys as well, and we played a high pressing game. So we were really kind of dynamic and energetic and getting about teams. And we kind of played that the full season and had some really good moments, like I think the Scottish Cup semi-final that year. I think we got to a replay with Rangers. Yeah. And we were kind of really unfortunate. Over the 2 games we possibly could have and should have got to the final that year. I think the replay, Rangers got a goal that I think Mark Reilly, I don't think it was over the line. So some great moments and funny. I'm digressing slightly before I go to the last game, but kind of funny stories that year with Tam as well. He was a crack character. Talking about that semi-final, I can remember, I believe we went to kind of Seamill before the game, stayed overnight, and I used to room with Big George McCluskey. And Big George and Tam were best pals for their time at Celtic. Yeah. So I think it must have been about 12:30 at night, and the phones went. George has answered the phone. I'm kind of half dozing off, and he says, Mavis, we all called him Gaffer. Although Tam was a teammate prior to that, obviously we gave him respect and called him Gaffer, but George used to always call him Tam. He's like, Mavis, it's Tam on the phone. He wants to speak to you. He's in room, whatever. You have to go and see him. And right away, I'm thinking, I'm looking at my watch. I'm thinking it's 12:30 coming up. It was coming up with 25 to 1 in the morning, night before semi-final. And I'm thinking, must be something wrong. And I'm thinking, I'm walking along his room and I'm thinking, nah, he can't be dropping me. I says, he wouldn't tell me this time. He just tell me the next day. And then things are going through your head. There's something happened with the family. There's just a phone call. You're thinking the worst. So walks into the room and Tam's sitting and he's got the board up with the teams on it. He's like, right, sit down, Mavis. And I sit down and I'm looking at him. And he says, right, this is the way we're playing tomorrow. And he starts going through the team. And I'm saying, is that a hit, Gaffer? He's like, what do you mean? I says, I thought there was something wrong. I says, it's 2 to 1 in the morning. He says, I know. He says, but I can't sleep. And that was just Tam. You know, he was kind of off the cuff. It was certainly different. I can remember that was a semi-final, and then the two buses have kind of drew up alongside each other at the game, and I think the police had held the buses on. The two buses were kind of side by side, and they were like that for quite a bit, you know. And their bus was obviously silent. There's a wee bit kind of nerves, and could see the Rangers bus looked relaxed. They were all sitting playing cards at the tables, and we had big Ally McCoist at the time, who again was
big character, now.
A massive character, and I think he could feel the tension, you know, and so he's trying to lighten up. So he's took his suit jacket off, and he used to always refer to himself as Big Jake for the München, you know. It was funny. He was really, so he's had a Versace suit on, and he's got the suit label against the window, and he's battering the window at the Rangers team at Hateley, and he's pointing, he's shouting, Big Jake played for the München and only wears one off Versace. So that kind of lightened the kind of tension a bit. And then at that point, Tam stood up at the front of the bus, and we've got directors and everybody in the bus. So he's in this inspirational team talk at the front of the bus about we're not here to make up numbers and walk out that pitch with your head held high. And then he eventually sits down and he looks up the back of the bus again and shouts, Mavis, come here. So I goes down in front of the bus, he says, sit down. So I sits beside him. So then he starts the chat with me as well about, listen, we Rangers need to know they're in a game here. He says, I need you to be sensible. He said, but I need you to start a fight in the first 5 minutes in the middle of the pitch. He says, smash Stuart McCall or somebody if you can, so that they know they're in a game. He says, just have a fight or something. He says, just so they know they're in the game. And that was just Tam. He was kind of off the wall, you know. He was different. But what a character he was. He was brilliant. Yeah, so going back to the question that you asked about the game, the second last game of the season. I think Rangers had won the league by that point.
Yeah.
And obviously it was a big game for us. And yeah, there was definitely tension there. Fantastic Kilmarnock crowd, and you could just feel the tension. Yeah. Can't remember too much about the game. The only kind of things I can remember is Andy Millen, which was unusual. I think Billy Stark put him through with the goal that he beat, and he just slid it by the post.
Yeah. And
then I can remember Tam Black scoring with the free kick quite late on and to hold on. So that put us in a great position to go to the last game at Easter Road, which was great. As I say, with a lot of big characters then, Derek, you know, with obviously Tam, with George McCluskey, you know, even guys who maybe hadn't played Premier League for that great length of time, but were big characters, you know, with Jay Montgomery, Andy Millen, you know, with a lot of strong characters. And back to Big Al McInally, another kind of funny story. Tam decided to take us away the night before the game at Easter Road. I think he took us to a hotel in North Berwick. And he said to us the night before, listen, I want everybody up for breakfast. I want us to eat as a team, have our breakfast together as a team, the lot of us. So that was fine. He says, I want everybody down for 8:30. He says, we'll have a wee walk, a wee listener, and he says, I'll kind of name the team. He says, it's a big game, so get a good night's sleep. So we'll all got up at 8:30, and we're all down at breakfast. And I can remember big Al McInally, who was always life and soul and always blathering, yapping away. He was sitting at the head of the table. And I can remember looking, and he had the biggest full English breakfast I've ever saw. It was about 3 plates in the one plate. It was huge. And for once, he wasn't talking. He was just eating away. And I can remember I was sitting next to Tam, and I can remember looking at him with this wee tiny bowl of muesli. And he was taking like a sip of it, and he couldn't eat it. And he was sitting back in his chair, and he's making noises, going, he's breathing deeply. And eventually I looked, and I said, Gaff, are you all right? And he says, I've no slept a wink. He says, honestly, he says, I've played in big game, played in Scotland internationalist, played in international games, cup finals for Celtic. He says, I couldn't sleep a wink last night. He says, I've just bag of nerves this game. He says, no like me. He's saying just at that, we heard the knife and fork getting banged on the table. So it was Big Jake at the head of the table. He says, I remember when Big Jake played for the München European Cup semi-final against AC Milan 2 hours before kick-off. Had a full English breakfast like this. They went out and destroyed Franco Baresi. So right away, everybody's laughing. So that kind of lightened the mood again. So it was great, Derek, with a lot of big characters. So we went into the game fairly, considering what was at stake, fairly relaxed. We had a bit of belief. And I think, although the game finished 0-0, we certainly weren't hanging on in the game. I think we were the team that was pressing and probably should have won the game. So, no, it was a great season with some great memories.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's a momentous season for the club to stay up because they've been up ever since, and it's huge for them, isn't it? You mentioned some of the characters there. You'd have played alongside John Henry. We had him on, I think it's a couple of years ago now. He was one of the first guests. What was he like to play with?
Zippy was a great lad, really talented football player. Had great ability, really, really creative footballer. So no, he was a very, very good footballer. I think it was maybe Alec Totten that signed him. Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but he came in and certainly added to the team. Maybe gave us something that at that time we didn't have, that little bit of creativity for the middle of the park, something different. No, he was a very good footballer, John. Yeah,
and talking about characters, Dylan Kerr joined as well. What was he like?
Dylan was certainly a character. Dylan probably played the way his personality is. He's a really kind of bubbly, enthusiastic personality, really likeable guy, and he played that way as well. He'd obviously had some bad injuries early on at Reading, and he come through them, and he did a great job for Kilmarnock. Really enthusiastic as a player as well, going forward, loved to get forwards, and he was certainly a character, really a big fan's favourite, really kind of lived locally. I think he lived in Troon and really kind of integrated himself in the community and the Kelly fans, and he was a big favourite.
Yeah, see, we touched on your game against Rangers. Did you enjoy coming up against the Old Firm, Mark? Is that something you relished?
Yeah, I loved it, Derek. I loved testing myself against the best players, and I used to get the job. Certainly when Gascoigne was there, Martin Gascoigne, or Martin Moravcik at Celtic, and prior to that playing against Paul McStay, who's a fantastic player. So I love playing against Old Firm. That's why you were a football player, to play those big games. It was, and test yourself. They were great.
Yeah. How good was Gascoigne? Did they try and noise you up during the game?
Gascoigne was incredible. Back then, you could obviously get away with tackling. So I always knew with Gascoigne, always tried to, let's just say, the first chance I got, to let him know that I was there, maybe follow through slightly without hurting him. Let him know he was in for a game. And I always knew by his reaction whether it was going to be a tough day for me, because I knew if he ignored me, he was really kind of switched on and he was really at it. Whereas if it was the opposite, I mind one night, for example, at Ibrox, it was a midweek game. I think we eventually lost 4-2. Early on, first chance I got a tackle, and I kind of let him know I was there, so to speak. And he jumped up, and the ball was quickly went down the left wing, and he's jumped up and he's punched me. And then the game's still going on, and he's just ran up and he's volleyed me. He's looked at the two linesmen, the referee, nobody's looking. He's just volleyed my legs away from me. So I'm lying in the ground, and then he'd come up to me and he'd apologise. And then 2 minutes later, he's up and he's in my face again. And then the Rangers got a penalty, and I can remember saying to him, "You're going to miss this." And he did. He missed it. He came back to me and he's talking to me. He said, "Can't you believe I missed that?" And I'm saying, "That's because you're hopeless." And I knew when I had him in that kind of frame, he was, well, let's just say he was a wee bit distracted, but when he was on it, he was incredible. He had everything. He was powerful, right foot, left foot. If you went to his right side, he'd move the ball to his left side and just put that arm out and hold you off, and he could run at pace with the ball. He was incredible. Probably probably the most talented player I played against. He was incredible.
Yeah, sensational, wasn't he? See when Tommy left for Celtic, Mark, were you sad to see him go, I'd imagine?
We were devastated, because at that point, I mean, I think he was obviously a big Celtic man, and I think when the opportunity came up, he couldn't turn it down. I think in an ideal world, it probably came too soon for him. And certainly, I think came too soon for Kilmarnock, because I think we were just building. He was just building a team then, and a club, and a kind of mindset, and even a philosophy in terms of the way he wanted to play. And I think he obviously had that high pressing game in mind, but I think he would have looked to maybe add a bit of quality to that as well, to maybe improve as the season went on. But obviously that never happened. I can remember taking the phone call from Billy Stark, phoned me just to make me aware that they were leaving for Celtic, and we were devastated. I think not just myself, I think everybody at the club at that point was really, really disappointed to lose him.
Yeah. Of course, Alec Totten would come in and take over. Was he a bit different in his outlook and that sort of stuff to Tommy? Did you enjoy playing under Alec?
If I'm being honest, I didn't enjoy playing under Alec as much as I did Tommy. I think the high pressing game and the fitness and getting about people really suited me.
Yeah.
Alec came in and obviously he had his own ideas. He wanted to build his own team, his own kind of philosophy. And Alec was very much, it was kind of total football, just play football. So there wasn't so much emphasis on the shape of the team. It was basically, we'll just go and play and allow play teams. The one thing Alec was a really nice guy, and the one thing I will say, what he was very good at, I think he was very good at, as you touched on earlier with John Henry, I think Alec was very good at identifying good footballers.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the signings he made, for example, I think he brought in Kevin McGowan, Paul Wright, he had a real eye for a player. But there wasn't the same emphasis on the kind of shape of the team. And I think the philosophy was we'll just go and we'll basically outplay teams.
Yeah.
And I don't think we had evolved enough at that stage to be able to do that successfully.
Yeah.
I think if there's maybe a wee bit of a mixture, and I think maybe that's what Bobby brought in when he came in.
Yeah.
Where we would still work on the shape of the team defensively, but he brought in, guys like Durant, we had Cocard. So when we were in possession, we were allowed to go and express ourselves. But there was still that balance when we didn't have the ball. We all knew what we were doing, and we'd work on the back four every week or every other day. So he kind of brought in that wee balance, whereas I think Alec's philosophy was we'll just go and play.
Yeah. The cup final then, Mark, what's your memories of the build up to that, and could you take it all in when you're at Ibrox? Is it one of those that just does it pass you by, or can you soak it up?
Yeah, I think the actual game, I think a lot of games kind of pass you by. There's certain things you'll remember. I remember obviously the build-up. We were in a relegation battle then at that point as well. So I think we were playing Aberdeen and we had to get a result, which thankfully we got. So obviously that kind of took the focus away a bit for the cup final. And then we had, I think it was maybe only about a week or so to prepare for the cup final. And obviously at that stage, you just want to play the game. I think there was probably a wee bit mentally more added pressure on us because, no disrespect, we were playing Falkirk.
Yeah, you expected to win.
We were expected to win, and as players, we were all aware that we would probably never have a better chance of winning the Scottish Cup. Yeah. And the same would go for Falkirk. The Falkirk players would be thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But we always been the Premier League team, and they were still in the First Division. I think there was a real expectation, whereas I think everybody expected Celtic to beat Falkirk in the semi-final, and for us, or Dundee United, to play Celtic in the final. So the kind of mindset change where I think there was that kind of added pressure to go and win the game. Which was a cup final anyway. You get into the cup final, no matter who you were playing, want to win it. Yeah. But I think there was a real expectation that we would win it. And I think a lot of people believing that, Kilmarnock could go years and years without having an opportunity like this again. So that week went in quick. The build up to the game, I remember we had the choice of either staying in our own beds that night or going to a hotel and staying overnight in a hotel. And I think I stayed overnight in a hotel. And then we all met for the bus and drove into the game was obviously at Ibrox because Hampden was getting renovated at that point. So just driving up, I think the kind of magnitude of the day just hit us as we were coming into Ibrox because it was obviously named the family final because it was, Falkirk and Kilmarnock, none of the Old Firm. But as soon as we got close to the stadium, it was just a sea of blue and white everywhere. The bus trying to get through it, and that kind of hit home, how important it was to the town of Kilmarnock and the fans.
I guess there was a fair party after that as well, Mark, with a fair celebration.
There was, but I think with the build-up and everything, you're just kind of fairly...
Bit drained after it.
Bit drained and exhausted. It was obviously quite a warm May day. And I remember I got picked for the drug test myself and with Tom Brown. I think they picked 2 random players for each team. And so we held the bus up for a bit to provide a urine sample. Because there was a bus parade at Kilmarnock after the game. So we held the bus up a bit. I can remember going on the bus and there was only one spare seat. So I've sat next to this guy and didn't know who he was. The bus was full, kind of blathering away. And I can remember I hated changing my boots into new boots. So I actually played in the cup final with holes in my boots. I had holes in my toes because I thought I'm not changing my boots now and breaking in new boots. I can remember blathering away and the guy's asking me about the game and I'm telling him, it was great, and telling him about my boots. And he says, "They came to me, I had to give you a pair of boots." I'm like, "Sorry, you need to excuse my ignorance. Who are you?" And it was Sir Tom Hunter. So he was obviously the sponsor. He had owned the sports division at that point. So that was the bus back to Kilmarnock. We did the kind of bus parade and we had a party, but I can remember just being, as the nights went on, I was just drained, exhausted. Probably Dylan partied all night, right enough, no doubt.
No doubt. See, the following season, of course, it was you'd play in Europe against the likes of Shelbourne and Nice would put you out. What's your memories of playing in Europe, Mark? Was it an enjoyable experience? Nice are a top side, of course, isn't it?
Yeah, I think obviously it had been so long since Kilmarnock had been in Europe, and obviously for the players it was a first for many of us. I think we might have drew Shelbourne.
It was Shelbourne
at the start. And I think again, on one hand, it was a good draw because you're expected again that expectations an Irish team would be stronger and we'd go through. But there's also that wee bit of pressure that comes with that as well. I remember, I don't think we played particularly well, and I think they maybe took the lead in the first game at Rugby Park. And I think Paul Wright maybe got 2 goals, one a really late goal to get us a win. I think Pat Nevin slipped him in for one of the goals as well, a wee reverse pass. They were well organised and played well, and we probably didn't play as well as we could. And then obviously the return leg, I think Jimmy McIntyre scored. It was a nice goal, good goal. And then I think we gave away a really poor goal. I think Big Drago kind of the goalie played a square pass, but a forward pass just into the Shelbourne player, and he scored for that. And we managed to see the game out, which we then get Nice. So I think they'd get relegated actually for the top flight, but they were they'd still some decent players, and they obviously went over, and I think we were there maybe an hour and a half before kick-off and just going out onto the pitch. And I can remember it was I don't know if it was their ultras, but they had a really kind of section, real hostile partisan support, letting flares off, really noisy. And I thought, wow, this is great atmosphere. And it was their old Nice. Obviously, they got a new stadium for the World Cup, so that was their old stadium. But it was a great atmosphere, and they had some decent players. They had a few decent players, midfield player, and the right winger was really quick. Again, probably didn't do ourselves justice. In that game, I think they beat us 3-1. Paul Wright scored with a penalty to give us a wee bit of hope. I think they scored with 3 headers. but they were certainly the better team that night.
Yeah, a couple of years later, you played Kaiserslautern and the likes of Djorkaeff and all that, playing for them. Was that like a footballing lesson, Mark? What was that like to play that mob?
I know, again, great. It's a great stadium, and again, just the professionalism. I think to be there with the European rules, I think you're there about an hour and a half before kick-off. And I can remember walking into the stadium and this massive warm-up area, and it was about an hour and a half before kick-off. And Djorkaeff was actually had his training kit on, and he was stretching, and you're saying, wow, just a World Cup win, and it just shows you that his professionalism, but they had some top players. But I think that game had a few chances actually to take the lead. But I think over the two legs they were too strong.
Yeah, there was some side. See, touching on the 97-98 season, of course, Rangers were going for 10 in a row, and the famous Ally Mitchell goal that sort of put the kibosh in that. Can you remember much about that game? And
it's funny, actual games I don't remember a great deal about. What I remember is kind of funny stories about the games. I think in terms of the result, obviously it was, I think that got us into Europe. That was the main thing. I think, as you touched on, obviously Rangers were going for 10 in a row, and there was only a few games left, so I think we really dented their hopes of 10 in a row. And I think obviously we were over the moon and delighted that we get Kilmarnock into Europe. That was a priority. But I think that day there was a few boys in our team that grew up as Celtic fans as well. I'm thinking big Jim Laughlin off the top of my head. So there was probably a kind of double celebration for some of them. Kind of denting Rangers' hopes for 10 in a row. But the kind of funny story that really kind of springs to mind was, again, back then there was so many characters. Even some of the referees were great characters. And I think Willie Young and Bobby Tate. And Bobby Tate was a referee that day. And there was no secret that Bobby Tate was a big Rangers fan. And actually, latterly after that, when Durrant and McCoist came to Rugby Park, Bobby Tate used to come in and have a chat with him and visit us. So Bobby was great. He was really funny, big character. But as I say, no secret he was a Rangers fan, and he was retiring at the end of the season. So it was his last game, and they gave him Rangers at Ibrox going for 10 in a row. Bobby was a big Rangers fan. So this story had made the front page of the newspaper that morning. So I can remember Bobby coming in to check the studs before the game. And I used to always have a bit of banter with him in games. And he turned to me and he said, "Mavis, did you read the newspaper this morning?" And I says, "As a matter of fact, I did, Bobby." I says, "You going to be fair today?" And he just had a wee smug smile on his face. So I can remember Ally Mitchell obviously scored and we're 1-0 up. And behind the two goals at Ibrox had the two clocks with the time on them. So it got to the 90 minutes and the two clocks have went off. So they've obviously switched the two clocks off. So as a player, periodically you're looking up. So I'm thinking, it's time up. We're into injury time. Can't be long to go. So I'm chasing Bobby Tate and I'm shouting, "Ho Tate, it's time up. Blow your whistle. The game's finished." And he's ignoring me. And I'm shouting, "Ho Tate, blow your whistle. It's for time up." He's ignoring me. So for about the third time, I'm shouting, "Tate, blow your whistle. It's time up." And he turned round to me and he said, "Mavis, I told you. Did you not read the newspaper this morning? We're playing at the Rangers score." And that was it, and you couldn't help but laugh at that. But in actual fact, I think they had a good opportunity. It could have been a penalty. McCoist got brought down and they never gave it. So that's, believe it or not, that's what I remember most about that game at Ibrox. Bobby Tate. Class.
That's great. You like that, a bit of banter with the referees. You don't seem to get that now. You look at the game now and you don't really see that between the referees and players, you know what I mean? But it's good that you can sort of have a noise up with them. It's something that should be part of the game, I think. You joined you joined Reading then, Mark. What was the thinking behind that? Was it again just Tommy gives you a call to come down there?
I'd been at Kilmarnock quite a few years at that point, Derek, and my contract was up. I never made any real kind of money in the game. I never got a signing on fee in my career.
Yeah.
And I can remember my contract was up and I knew there was money coming into the league, and Kilmarnock had started spending a bit of money, and I knew we'd sign players like Cocard, etc. And I knew, I'd heard that Gerard and McCoist were coming in, so I knew they'd be coming in for decent money. And say it was about £400 a week at the time. And I can remember having a chat with Pat Nevin. He said, Mark, the wages are going to go up. So I can remember speaking to the chief executive, who I think was Ian Welsh at the time. They brought in a chief executive.
Yeah.
And I think I asked for a bit of a rise. I wasn't looking to get paid anywhere near the money that the players I had mentioned were getting paid, but I was looking for a bit of a rise. I think I asked for about £800 a week, and he wouldn't give me it. And I knew there was people in a lot more money, and I'd never made a penny. And I thought, I was playing my best football in my career at that point, and I thought, I owe it to my family to get the best deal I can get. And I'd won a few Player of the Years for the last few years at Kilmarnock, and I thought, do you know, I deserve a wee bit more money. So he wouldn't give me, he wouldn't budge on it. And Tam's phoned me up, and at that point he was at Reading. He was bringing in quite a few Scottish boys. Yeah. And he says, I can't believe Kilmarnock are not giving you a contract. He says, come down and speak to me. So he actually flew me down the day after the Rangers game at Ibrox that we were discussing there. And I went down, and to be honest, I never really wanted to leave Kilmarnock. Yeah. But anyway, Tam was very persuasive. So I never signed any contract, but I shook his hand. I would come down, and I come back up the road, and Bill Costley was the chairman at the time at Kilmarnock. And it still went on. I think we played Hibs the last game, and I had been honest with Bobby all the way through. And then I got a phone call for Bill Costley, and he said, Mark, what's happening? And I explained to him, and he said, listen, come and meet me and we'll sort something out. And I said, Chairman, I can't. I said, I've shook hands with Tam. He said, have you signed any contract? Well, I said, no, I've not signed anything. He said, well, come in. I said, no. I said, my word's my word. I said, I've shook hands. That's as good for me as signing a contract. So I never even discussed with him then any further. I think he would probably maybe have gave me a wee bit more money. Yeah. And then I went to Reading, and it just never felt right for me, Derek. I was, to be honest, only played about half a dozen games, and I was hopeless. But I think I was playing again. I was a kind of hold midfield player, and the few games I played, Tam was playing me kind of wide left wing, and I couldn't play. I think there was a lot of kind of no politics went on, but I think Tam had brought a lot of Scottish players in. And they had some decent players there, and he was obviously wanting to put his own kind of mark in the team. Yeah. So, for example, there was a guy, Dan Caskey, midfield player, so he was wanting to build the team around him, which I understood. And the guy, Phil Parkinson, who was a manager, was there at the time. Yeah, he is. So I was kind of replacing Phil, and he was a legend. And to be honest, Phil done that holding midfield role as good, if not better than me, you know. So I was kind of playing wide-ish, and I didn't really offer the team a great deal there, and I think Tam knew that. So it was only a few months into it, and he says, what are you thinking? I think he knew himself, and I says, it's not really happening, Tam, you know, I'm kind of playing wide left, I'm not offering the team anything, I'm not going to play well in that, because I'm not going to give buy fullbacks, I'm not offering anything. And he says, I know, I've been a wee bit unfair with you, bringing you down and playing you there. He said, listen, he says, there's Motherwell and Kilmarnock's come back in for you again. He says, I said, Kilmarnock? I said, that's strange, considering they wouldn't give me anywhere near a wee bit of a rise, you know. And he said, no, they've come back in, and so is Motherwell. So I went and spoke to the two of them. I spoke to Motherwell first, and at the time, I think John Boyle was the chairman, so they were kind of putting big money in. They had John Spencer, Andy Gorham, and that. Yeah. I think Pat Nevin was the chief executive at the time, and I think it was Pat that was really kind of pushing for me to be signed. So Billy Davis was the manager. And I spoke to Ally McCoist initially. He discussed the financial side of it. So financially, it would have been a far better deal for me. to sign with Motherwell. I think the wages were similar to Kilmarnock's, but I think they offered me a signing on fee about 40 grand. I never had a signing on fee. And then I spoke to Billy Davis about the playing aspect, and Billy was honest with me. He said, "I'll be honest with you, Mark." He says, "It's Pat that's pushing for you." He says, "I know you're a good pro, and I've asked about it." He says, "I've got no issues with that." He says, "But I'll be honest with you, Pat's the kind of driving force for us to sign you." And that wasn't really what I was wanting to hear, because obviously you're wanting to hear the managers really want you.
Yeah.
So I had spoke to Bobby after that, and my kind of heart was always going back to Kilmarnock anyway. And although financially I would have been far better off going to Motherwell, I decided to go back to Kilmarnock.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, when you went back, you mentioned they had Durrant and McCoist were there. On the park, I mean, class acts, but off the field, they must have livened up the place somewhat, Mark.
Oh, it was incredible. I think the important thing to mention, Derek, as you said, they're on the park. I think both of them came, obviously had a great career at Rangers, and both contributed on the park.
Yeah. None
more so than Durrant, who was, to be honest, exceptional and took us to another level in terms of that creative side, and his performances were incredible. And McCoist obviously getting a wee bit on, but he still really contributed on the pitch as well with a few goals. But I mean, in the dressing room, they were every day. You couldn't wait to get into training in the morning because you didn't know what was happening. They were brilliant. I mean, I was still at Reading at the time, but the boys tell the story. McCoist just walked in his first day, and Paul Wright was the main man, you know, and Paul Wright had a cruciate injury early on, so he used to always go down to the gym and do his leg weights for his knee. So he was down doing his leg weights, and McCoist walked in first day. Both of them, we school bride boys, you know. Yeah. And Paul Wright's nickname was Bunyan. So McCoist walked in and said, Where's wee Bunyan? Get changed. And he says, there he's there, the number 9 peg. So he's just walked up, took all his clothes and put them in the bin, and started getting changed and hanging his stuff up. And wee Bunyan's walked in for the gym, and McCoist shouted, "Hey, wee man, there's a new king in town." And it kind of just went for there, you know. It was every day was a scream. If you could tell you another quick funny story with Jim Laughlin, just sum McCoist up. He was sharp as a tack. He was late every morning. Every day he was late. And young Jim Laughlin, who East End of Glasgow boy, was brilliant. Really great lad, really funny guy. He'd been playing really well, had a few games, and had got a new 3-year contract. So Bobby was always kind of hard on Jim because he knew he was quite a confident, cocky boy, and he was always trying to make sure his feet were in the ground. So Jim's got a new 3-year contract, so he goes out and buys a Peugeot convertible, brand new motor, with a private number plate. So he's drove in, and Bobby's found out and had him in and gave him what for in the morning. So Big Jim's come out looking really kind of sheepish, saying, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, manager just slaughtered me for buying the motor. Called me big time Charlie and that again, and just really kind of gave me a real hard time." So just at that point, McCoist comes in about 15 minutes late. Comes in, always life and soul, and "What's the banter of the day, boys?" He says, "What's happening, Mavis?" So I've told him about Big Jim. He's like, "Oh, brilliant." He says, "We'll have a bit of fun with him this morning." So at that point, Bobby comes in. Back then, with no training ground, so you used to kind of beg and borrow where you were training. So that day we were training at some open grass area near Irvine that we didn't really know where it was, but the coaching staff had went and kind of sourced it. So Bobby's come in and said, we're training at Irvine today. We'll just go in a convoy of cars, we'll follow each other to get there. So Coisties turned around and said, "Lockie, me, Mavis and Bunyan will travel with you this morning. See the new motor, see what the new motor's like." So Big Jim's still a bit sheepish. So he's always late, so he's getting his socks and that on, and Jim's like, "Come on, Coisty, hurry up, can you be late? Because I've already got into trouble this morning." He's like, "Listen, don't worry about it, Jim, you're with me." He says, "You know, because you're with me, you can do anything." He says, "You can do anything with your old dad, it doesn't matter." He says, "It'll be fine, Bobby, will no bother." He says, "In fact, I've got a brilliant idea." He says, seen the way into Irvine. He says, we'll have a wee sweep between us, right? We'll have a wee bet. We'll drive into Irvine. We'll see any random guys. We'll stop the car and I'll ask them the way to this training field and we'll see how many guys recognise me. And we'll have a wee sweepstake, see who gets it right. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? I knew he was up to something. And all he was trying to do, Derek, was delay us and make us really late for training. But I didn't know what was going on. So Jim's like, Jim St Coist, I don't know if that's a good idea. They said, no, listen, you'll be fine. So that's what we've done. We've drove into Irvine, stopped a couple of guys, and they're the usual, Ally McCoist, can I get your autograph? And so we're doing this. Eventually say, right, we better go to training. So at this point, we must be about 25 minutes late for training. So we get towards where this training area is, and it was really open, and we could see it for, it must have been about a good quarter of a mile away. You could see them away, the wee dots training. So I'm sitting in the back with Bunyan, McCoist in the passenger seat, Jim's driving, and he says, right, how does this roof go down, Jim? Where's the button? So he's pressing the buttons. He's put the roof down. He says, listen, I've got a great idea. He says, Jim, you could get 120 out of this. And Jim said, no. He says, the guys in the garage told me I have to keep it at 70 mile an hour for the first week. He said, that's a load of rubbish. I reckon you could get at least 110, 100 anyway. And he's like, no. He said, well, listen, we've got a great idea. We'll go in the grass area, right? You get the foot to the floor. See if you can get 100 out of it. He says, and we'll drive into the boys. He says, they'll see us coming. It's a big area. He says, there's no lost scatter. He said, we'll do a wee handbrake turn. He says, we'll open the doors, get out the motor, and we'll just join in training. He says, it'll be some laugh. He says, the manager will love it. He says, the boys will love it. He says, it'll be brilliant. I could see Jim, I'm looking at Bunyan, he's looking at me, and the two of us are putting our seatbelts on. I think this isn't going to end well. So Jim said, no, I don't know, Coist. He says, I'm telling you, he says, it'll be brilliant, get you back in the good books, you're with me, you can get away with anything with me. Jim's like, right, okay. So he's got a foot to the floor, and he must be, by this point, doing about 80, 90 mile an hour. And it was as if everything went in slow motion. You could see everybody's training stop, everybody turn, look towards us. In the last minute, everybody scatters. So Coisty pulls on the handbrake. The car spins, nearly actually goes up on its side. Open the doors, and the four of us get out. To this day, it's the angriest I've ever saw Bobby Williamson. So he's running over, shouting, always you, Lachlan. And Coisty gets out of the car and says, Gaffer, I told him, you can't do that. You can't do that. So it just stitched him up, and Bobby's shouting, that's you, you're fined 2 weeks' wages, Lachlan. 2 weeks, and Big Jim shouting, Coisty told me to do that. And Coisty saying, Gaffer, I told him, you can't do that. Can't get away with that. So every day was like that. It was a scream, Derek. It was brilliant. It really was. So it was great times.
Yeah, that's absolutely sensational stuff. That what a laugh that must have been. Look, you played in another final, Mark, against Celtic, the League Cup final, where you came on as a sub. Can you remember much about that playing at Hampden? They were some side, weren't they, back then?
They did a great side then. Obviously, they had Larson, who was a special player.
Barachik as well and all that, didn't they?
They did. I think I changed the game because I come on for wee Durante, who got injured, and I think up to that point he was playing great, and Kilmarnock were kind of in the game, looking good. But when you've got somebody like Larson in your team, I think he actually went on and scored. So no, they had it was a team full of men back then. They were monsters all the way through. Yeah, no, a real physical, strong team with some special players.
Yeah, your final season, you didn't play that much. Did you pick up an injury or what, Mark, or was it you just getting sort of phased? Because you went to loan for it, went to Airdrie on loan, didn't you, for a wee spell?
Yeah, I did. I had a bad. I've been really fortunate in my career, Derek. I've never had an operation in my life, but I did have a bad ankle injury where I think it happened at Aberdeen at Pataudry. I had bad ligament damage, so I was out for quite a while. Yeah. And I struggled to get myself kind of fit again. And when I did get myself fit, Bobby said to me, listen, I spoke to Ian McCall, do you fancy going to Airdrie for 4-6 weeks to kind of try and get your fitness up? And I think they were going for promotion at the time as well. So I was quite happy and enjoyed it. I enjoyed the few weeks there. It was great, a great team spirit as well. And Ian McCall was a character, and training was great, really enjoyable. And guys like Owen Coyle there with Sandy Stewart, so it was great. But then when I come back for that, Jim Jeffries had come in as well. And I kind of knew it was coming to the end for me then, Derek, at Kilmarnock. I think I was kind of probably maybe not physically the player I was before. And the physical aspect, fitness side, although I wasn't the biggest, that was a big part of my game. And I maybe wasn't as strong then. And I knew Jim Jeffries was looking to obviously build his own side as well. So it was a kind of natural progression towards the end of my time then. I had no complaints, it was great memories, great times, and played with some great players and big characters there.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, when you were at Airdrie, that's the season when they went bust. Did you sort of sense things behind the scenes, Mark, or was it something that happened after you left to come back to Kilmarnock?
Yeah, no, I wasn't really kind of aware of that.
Yeah,
Derek, I was only there a few weeks, so I wasn't really kind of part of that. I can't really recall that.
Yeah.
What I can remember is training at Glasgow Green with Airdrie and kind of, the guys, their own training kit and what have you, which was kind of unusual. So I suppose that was a kind of sign that things weren't brilliant there financially, But no, it was certainly, Ian McCall's training was great, and some great pros there as well.
Yeah. Did you ever get a testimonial at Kilmarnock when you were there?
No, I didn't. I think probably because I was there 11 years all in there. But maybe the broken service, although I was only maybe away 4 months. But obviously going to Reading and then I come back again. But no, the money side of the game kind of never bothered me. It was about the memories and about playing football. That was an important thing for me. And I wasn't really that fussed anyway, so I was just happy to play and enjoy it and the good memories, which I was fortunate enough to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you'd leave then, you joined St Johnstone for a couple of years. Billy Stark was the manager there. Was that the sort of the reason for joining them? Did you have any other offers elsewhere, Mark?
No, I can't remember. I think Billy had phoned me quite quickly when I was away from Kilmarnock. I think I was actually maybe still there, but I knew I was leaving. And I'd spoke to Billy. So as soon as Billy came in for me again, it didn't really matter what the wages were. I was delighted to go and play for him. It was probably the most disappointed I've been in my career in terms of winning the championship to get St Johnstone back into the Premier League. I really wanted to do it for Billy Stark. He was just such a guy I respected so much, and a really good coach and great guy. So no, it was a pleasure playing for him for a couple of seasons, and up at St Johnstone, enjoyed it.
Yeah, and of course you would get promotion at St Mirren when you joined them in 2006. How much do you enjoy your time in Paisley, Mark?
Brilliant, great. I think it helps when you're winning, Derek, as well. But obviously Gus, I played with Gus for about 11 years at Kilmarnock, so I knew him well. And Andy Millen's assistant, played with Andy, and Andy was a good pal of mine as well. And big Kevin McGowan's a good pal there. And some great pros there, great young boys. It was just great environment, great atmosphere at the club. I think we only lost about 4 games the season we got promoted. And we had with Charlie Adam as well, who gave us that wee bit something different. Charlie gave us that wee bit something different, Derek, So, no, I love my time at St Mirren, and it was a good time to finish kind of on a high with winning the league and getting promotion. And no, it was a fantastic 2 years.
Yeah, and but see when Charlie was there, I'm not too sure if it was it at St Mirren when he tried the halfway line lob thing, or was it Ross County? I think at that point, I think he actually scored for Ross County against St Mirren. I think it was Ross
for
County
the halfway line, and in actual fact, just after it, he had the same effort again. I think just clipped the bar. No, it's something a wee bit. It's certainly at that level, when he was playing for St Mirren, he gave us that something a wee bit different, and then we had great youth and experience. We had
Yeah.
Kicked Broadfoot at the time as a young boy coming through, you know, and we had like Big Mixu, Simon Lappin, when he played, with Big Mixu up front, you know. We had John Sutton, Chris Sutton's brother. John Sutton scored a lot of goals at that level, you know. He was a handful. So we had a real good balance to the team with experience and youth, and had a strong team in that championship, you know. It was a good team.
Yeah, of course. After that, you'd call time in your career, Mark. Were you upset? Were you disappointed to hang the boots up at that stage, or do you feel the time is right?
Yeah, I kind of knew that I was kind of helping out in the reserves, playing more in the reserves and helping the kids. I was 37. I was coaching the 19s and coaching the reserves at the time. I still had another. I think St Mirren keen gave me another year's playing contract, but obviously stay on as a coach. The big thing for me, I loved playing, and I knew that was kind of coming to the end. And I had opened a Subway, a sandwich shop, in Coat Bridge, and then Bellsill. So I was looking to do that, but still stayed in the coaching. Yeah. But when they first opened, Derek, it was booming. It was incredibly busy. So in a way, I was kind of forced into retiring and working in the shop to help run the shop because it was so busy. And I think because I was kind of naturally coming to the end of my playing career, it wasn't so hard for me. And I think I touched on as well, going back to that light bulb moment with Tam Burns. I think I was probably about 22. I had no regrets because I treated every day like a World Cup final. Yeah. So when it came to 37 and kind of naturally no playing as much, it kind of felt right for me. And I think the added thing as well was going out in the high with St Mirren winning the league. Yeah. So, yeah, sad to leave, but I was always quite positive with the mindset that, you know, the big thing is adapting to change in your life. Yeah. And that, you know, playing football was always going to come to an end at some point, and I knew I had to kind of adapt to that change.
Yeah. So the two Subways that you had, how long did you have them for?
I had them for a few years, Derek. They're sold now, but the credit crunch came. So that was 2006 I retired, and probably a few years later the kind of credit crunch came. But I didn't enjoy working in the shops anyway. I think going from being out in the fresh air and training every day and being in the company, like 30 guys and the kind of stories, I was kind of nothing wrong with behind a counter, you know, making sandwiches, but it just wasn't me. I wasn't enjoying it. It was a different world. And the credit crunch came as well, which kind of the sales of the shop dropped overnight. So it kind of gave me that kind of boost to go and look for something. Yeah. So cut a long story short, the police were kind of recruiting big at that point. So it was actually my next door neighbour at the time, who's my pal, was in the police, was an inspector, and said, well, you might enjoy the police because it's something different every day and don't know what you're going into. And I thought, I could give that a go. So I've been in that 11 years.
Wow. So what is it you do with the police then, Mark?
I'm in a kind of specialist unit, Derek, a kind of public protection unit, kind of deals with kind of public protection issues. So I'm kind of in that. I can tell you a quick funny story about that as well.
Please do.
When I was in my probation, we got a call to go and assist. Kilmarnock were playing Motherwell at Rugby Park, and some drunk Killie fan had been arrested for some, I don't know what he'd done. So we had got a call, could we go and assist and convey this guy to Motherwell police station, and he'd been arrested. So kind of traps up and gets the guy, and I've obviously, I think I'm 40 at the time, but I've got my police cap and everything on, so I'm probably the guy was half cut as well. He was well on. He had a good drink in him, so he never recognised me. But when we began to process him at the charge bar, you have to take your cap off. So I took my cap off, and he's standing beside me, and the sergeant's asking him questions, his name and stuff, and he kind of looks at me, and he kind of turns away, and then it was a kind of take two. He looks back again at me, and he shouts, "Mavis Reilly!" And I'm not saying anything. And the sergeant obviously didn't know I played football, I don't think he was a football fan, didn't know much about football. So this guy's starting to shout, "I can't believe it. I've just been arrested by Mavis Reilly." He says, "This is the second best day of my life." He says, "After the cup final." So he starts singing, "There's only one Mavis Reilly," at the top of his voice. So the sergeant was getting a wee bit cheesed off. So he turned to me and he was a bit confused. He didn't know what was going on. I think he just thought this guy was bonkers. So he says, "Listen, you're going to charge this guy and then put him in the cell." So he's like, "Give me your autograph, give me your autograph." I said, "Listen," I says, "I'll give you my autograph." I said, "But you need to be quiet for a wee minute. I need to charge you." I said, "You need to listen to me. And then you can reply to that if you want." So I kind of read the charge out to him. And I says, "Have you got a reply?" And he breaks into a song, "There's only one Mavis Reilly." So I had to put that in my notebook as his reply to the charge, that there's only one Mavis Reilly. Thankfully, it didn't go to court.
That's class. That's brilliant, man. That's superb. And then you bring up to the modern day, Mark. You're doing a fundraising challenge just now. I mean, it's I've been seeing the videos on social media for your ex teammates and what have you. It's absolutely sensational stuff. Tell us a wee bit about that.
Yeah, initially, my daughter's got a condition called Rett syndrome, Derek. So I've been raising kind of funds for the charity Reverse Rett since 2012, done various things like Ironmans and what have you. And I decided to do the Marathon des Sables, which is a self-sufficient multi-day ultra event in the Sahara Desert. But it kept getting postponed due to COVID. So I started a Just Giving page. So I decided it would be a good idea to maybe try and do an ultra run around the grounds for the teams I played for. So I'm doing over 100 miles on the 22nd of May. Starting at St Johnstone, McDermott Park, running to Motherwell Park, on to St Mirren, and then finishing at Kilmarnock. So hoping to do it in under 30 hours. So wow. Yeah, it'll be a tough one.
Have you been? I guess you've been training quite a fair bit for this then, because it's slightly unusual.
Yeah, I've been training for probably over a year for it. So yeah, kind of training plan kind of around my family life, my work, and my daughter, who, you know, she's 24/7 care. So my training plan kind of revolves around all that, and it's been quite difficult, you know, because quite a lot of weeks I've been doing over 100 miles. Yeah. So I'm kind of getting up at 5 a.m, running before work, and then running when I come in. Yeah. Maybe 7 miles, give or take, and then the same in the evening, and then at the weekends try to get some bigger miles in. So yeah, it's been kind of full on, and it's been a tough year, training wise. Yeah,
this run then, you said it take you about 30 hours. What, are you getting a chance to sleep at any point then, or is it just a sort of an endurance thing?
I don't plan in sleeping, no. Yeah. I think obviously there's quite a lot of kind of planning going in there. I need to watch my heart rate, keep my heart rate low so that I don't get in my anaerobic zone too much. So I will at points maybe need to slow down and walk and have a rest. I'll need to be able to take on quite a lot of food to kind of get me through it. I don't plan on sleeping. No, there might be periods where I might have to rest for 15, 20 minutes or so, but I'll just need to see how it goes. I just need to see how my body reacts once I get between the 50 and 100 miles. Yeah.
And what have you made of the wee videos that likes of McCoist, your aunt, and all other players that you played with are sending you, Mark? It must be quite uplifting seeing all that sort of stuff.
No, the guys have been absolutely brilliant. The support that, you know, I've had for my challenge has been incredible. And all my old teammates, and even the odd kind of celebrity as well, like Ben Johnson for Biffy Clyro and Martin Compson, the actor. Wow. So it's the videos have been incredible, tremendous. No, kind of really humbled by the support. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, and you've got a Just Giving page as well. Is that right? That people can go and make a donation.
Yeah, it's Just Giving fundraising. It's just my name, Mark Reilly, and number 12 after it, and you'll be able to donate through that. Yeah, so all good.
Yeah, we wish you all the best with that, Mark. We'll keep an eye out for it. So good luck with that. And it's been great having you on, Mark. Thank you very much for talking us through your career. It's been brilliant to listen to.
No, thanks for having me, Derek. Enjoyed it.